In a world where interactions are increasingly digital, it's crucial to understand the characters that cross our paths. Today, we dive deep into the human psyche to uncover the subtle yet potent signs of a dangerous individual. It's not always the shadowy figures in dark alleys. Often it's the person you least expect, the one hidden in plain sight. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, teaches us the importance of observation and understanding of human behavior, not just for judgment, but for protection. Stoics urge us to look beyond appearances, to see the signs before they unfold into actions. As we explore these signs, remember, knowledge isn't just power, it's protection. It's a shield crafted not from fear, but from wisdom and discernment. So let's arm ourselves with the insights that could safeguard our peace and perhaps even our lives as we identify the 10 key traits of potentially dangerous individuals lurking in our everyday lives. If you appreciate the insights we're sharing here, please consider subscribing to our channel. A simple free favor I'll ask from you is to hit the subscribe button and please stick with us throughout. Every segment of this video is crafted to enhance your understanding and safety. Sign number 1, manipulative behavior. Picture someone who seems to always have the right words at the right time, not simply to uplift, but subtly to bend your will to theirs. It starts innocently enough, perhaps with small favors or decisions. But over time, this manipulation becomes a constant thread woven into every interaction. They might use flattery, guilt, or even obligation to steer you towards their desired outcome, subtly eroding your ability to make independent choices. Stoicism teaches us about the power of our own minds, our capacity to choose our responses rather than simply react. In the face of manipulative behavior, a Stoic would advise us to maintain a detachment from our immediate emotional responses. Why? Because when we pause and reflect, we gain the ability to see the manipulative tactics for what they are, external attempts to influence our internal decisions. Stoicism, this perspective, isn't about dismissing our emotions, but rather understanding them as signals rather than dictates. By doing so, we can hold our ground more firmly and act according to our own rational decisions. We learn to recognize when our strings are being pulled and, more importantly, how to cut those strings and reclaim our autonomy. As we discuss these manipulative behaviors, consider how they make you feel and why. Is it a twinge of guilt? A brush of flattery? Recognize these feelings, but don't let them cloud your judgment. Instead, use them as clues to the manipulator's game. In doing so, you embody the Stoic ideal. Not a pawn to external forces, but a fortress impervious to the whims of another. This approach not only protects you, but also empowers you to lead your life with intention and integrity. Sign number 2, emotional manipulation. Imagine a scenario where someone consistently pulls at your heartstrings or triggers your insecurities to serve their purpose. This might manifest as a friend who always has a sob story right when they need a favor, or a partner who overplays their disappointment when you set boundaries. Emotional manipulation is a sophisticated form of control. It's like being a puppet in someone else's hands where your feelings are the strings. Stoicism offers a robust shield against this. The philosophy encourages us to separate our internal world from external influences. This is crucial when dealing with emotional manipulation because it compels us to evaluate our reactions. Are we responding to a genuine need, or are we being coaxed into feeling a certain way? Stoics strive for internal harmony and resilience, qualities that help us resist being swayed by undue emotional appeals. By practicing Stoicism, you can develop the ability to discern the true nature of your emotions. Is this guilt I'm feeling my own, or has it been planted there by someone else's expectations? Stoics strive for internal harmony and resilience. Is my sympathy being invoked genuinely, or am I being maneuvered into a specific action? When you start asking these questions, you begin to dismantle the manipulator's influence over you. Remember, it's not about suppressing your emotions, it's about understanding them. A Stoic uses reason to navigate through emotional waters, ensuring that they react not out of immediate feeling, but from a place of balanced, thoughtful consideration. This mental discipline frees you from being unduly influenced by others' emotional games. and allows you to maintain genuine, healthy relationships based on mutual respect, not emotional debt. This isn't just self-protection, it's self-empowerment, fostering a life where your emotional integrity is intact and cherished. Sign number 3. Isolation tactics. Picture someone who slowly, subtly begins to edge between you and your support network. It could be a partner who suggests your friends don't really understand you like they do, or a family member who subtly criticizes those you are close to, planting seeds of doubt about their intentions. This manipulation isn't overtly hostile. It's often cloaked in concern or love, making it particularly insidious and hard to confront. Stoics teach us the importance of community and support systems as external manifestations of our internal values and judgments. They remind us that true independence is not about being isolated, but about choosing those who truly support and enrich our lives. From a Stoic perspective, isolation tactics threaten our personal moral judgment by severing the relationships that reflect and reinforce our values. Stoics would advise us to be wary of any individual who encourages us to cut off these connections, as it is a sign that they may be trying to exert control. It's important to assess whether someone's advice to distance ourselves from others is truly for our benefit, or if it's for their gain. When faced with potential isolation tactics, a Stoic would counsel us to maintain and strengthen our bonds with others, recognizing these connections as vital to our well-being and resilience. They would encourage us to reflect deeply on the reasons behind our relationships and to trust in our capacity to judge who is genuinely for us. By upholding our social bonds, we not only resist manipulative isolation, but also affirm our commitment to living a life aligned with our values. Reflecting on this, if you ever feel pressured to isolate from those you trust, take it as a critical moment to pause and consult your inner compass. This is not about defiance for its own sake, but about safeguarding your personal domain of freedom, your right to choose your company and your influences. In doing so, you honor both your Stoic principles and your innate social nature. Sign number 4. Inconsistent behavior. Imagine dealing with someone whose words and actions don't line up. One day they're supportive and kind, and the next they're distant or dismissive without clear reason. This kind of inconsistency can be confusing and is often a deliberate tactic to keep you off balance. It's like walking on shifting sands, never quite knowing what to expect. This unpredictability can be deeply unsettling and is a classic hallmark of manipulative individuals. Stoics strive for internal consistency as part of their virtue. They seek to align their thoughts, words, and actions harmoniously. When faced with someone whose behavior is wildly inconsistent, a Stoic might view this as a crucial indicator of the person's lack of virtue and integrity. This doesn't mean a snap judgment or immediate withdrawal, but rather a reasoned reflection on the implications of these discrepancies. A Stoic would advise us to observe and reflect rather than react immediately. By doing so, we can maintain our inner equilibrium and not be swayed by every change in someone else's demeanor or actions. This measured response allows us to assess whether these inconsistencies are simply human flaws or signs of a deeper manipulative intent. The key here is to remain true to your principles, to hold steady to your internal compass, even in the face of external inconsistency. Consider the Stoic practice of focusing on what is within our control. While we cannot control another's behavior, we can control our reactions to it. We can choose to respond in ways that uphold our dignity and peace of mind. If someone's inconsistency is designed to manipulate or control, recognizing that fact empowers us not to engage with the games being played. We can then decide whether to address the behavior directly, set firmer boundaries, or perhaps distance ourselves if necessary. Inconsistency in someone's actions and words can serve as a warning sign that requires careful attention. By applying Stoic wisdom, we can remain centered and clear-headed, making decisions that protect our well-being while adhering to our values of honesty and integrity. Sign number 5. Narcissism. Narcissism isn't just about self-love. It's a deeper psychological trait where individuals see their own needs and perspectives as overwhelmingly more significant than those of others. This can manifest in a lack of empathy, a sense of entitlement, and frequent disregard for other people's feelings or needs. Picture someone in your life who seems to have an inexhaustible need for admiration and attention. Their interactions might often revolve around their achievements, their desires, or their problems, rarely acknowledging yours unless it serves their ends. Stoicism, with its focus on virtue and community, offers a compelling antidote to narcissistic tendencies. Stoics believe in the development of self-awareness and self-control as a means to live harmoniously within a community. They teach us that true self-esteem comes from our actions being in line with moral virtues, not from external validation. For those dealing with narcissistic individuals, Stoicism encourages a return to these core values: wisdom, justice, courage. A Stoic approach to handling a narcissist involves understanding the root of their behavior, often a profound sense of insecurity masked by their outward bravado. While it's challenging, Stoicism teaches us to respond with empathy and patience, recognizing that their behavior is ultimately harmful to themselves as well. However, Stoicism also emphasizes protecting one's inner peace and moral integrity, which means setting boundaries with those who consistently exhibit narcissistic behaviors. This isn't about punishment or distancing out of spite, but about preserving one's own well-being in the face of behaviors that can be emotionally draining or manipulative. Furthermore, Stoicism helps us to detach from the need to change the narcissist, focusing instead on how we can respond in ways that are within our control, calm, composed, and with a clear understanding of our own values. We are reminded that our worth is not determined by how we are treated by someone with narcissistic traits. Instead, our worth comes from our capacity to live true to our principles, regardless of external circumstances. By applying these Stoic principles, we can navigate relationships with narcissistic individuals more effectively. We learn not to feed into their need for constant attention and admiration, and to protect our energy by not getting overly involved in the emotional chaos they often create. This stance isn't about cold indifference, but about a compassionate detachment that allows us to interact with them in a way that is honest and integrity-filled, yet safeguarding our emotional health. Sign number 6, aggression. This sign is crucial because it goes beyond simple personality clashes. Aggression can manifest as both a verbal and physical threat to your well-being. Picture someone who uses their anger as a weapon. They might raise their voice frequently, interrupt you, or even resort to physical intimidation to assert dominance. This behavior can make any interaction feel like walking on eggshells, as you may never know what will trigger their anger next. From a Stoic perspective, aggression is a fundamental violation of rational and social harmony. Stoicism teaches that true strength lies in self-control and rationality, not in overpowering others. Stoics strive to remain calm in the face of provocation, viewing aggression as a weakness, a failure to control one's emotions. Marcus Aurelius believed that the best revenge is not to become like the aggressor. Therefore, when dealing with an aggressive individual, a Stoic might focus on maintaining their composure and responding with reason rather than reacting impulsively. However, Stoicism does not advocate for passive acceptance of harm. It teaches us to protect our inner peace by choosing how we respond to aggression. If someone is being verbally aggressive, we can choose to disengage rather than escalate the situation. In situations where physical aggression is a threat, prioritizing safety and seeking help is key, becomes essential. A Stoic approach in such scenarios involves making calculated, rational decisions about how to protect oneself, rather than responding with similar hostility. Moreover, Stoicism encourages us to reflect on what triggers aggressive behavior in others. Often such actions stem from deep-seated fear, insecurity, or pain. Understanding this can foster a sense of pity rather than anger, allowing us to see the aggressor as someone struggling to manage their emotions. This insight doesn't justify their actions, but it can help us respond to them with a balanced perspective, minimizing the emotional impact on our lives. Dealing with aggression effectively requires a blend of empathy, strategic disengagement, and assertive boundary setting. By applying Stoic principles, we learn not only to protect ourselves from immediate harm, but also to cultivate an environment where rational and respectful interactions are prioritized, reducing the overall presence of aggression in our lives. Sign number 7, victim mentality. Imagine someone who consistently portrays themselves as the perpetual victim, no matter the circumstance. This isn't just about seeking sympathy, it's a strategy that manipulates perceptions, making it challenging to address their behavior without appearing to be the aggressor. They often deflect responsibility, making it difficult for others to hold them accountable, creating a narrative where they are always the wronged party. Stoicism provides a thoughtful approach to handling such situations. Stoics teach that external circumstances do not harm us. Rather, it is our interpretation of these events that can cause us distress. This philosophy encourages us to look beyond the surface and understand the deeper motivations behind someone's victim mentality. It's often a manifestation of their inability to take responsibility for their actions or to feel in control of their life. By constantly shifting blame, they avoid facing their shortcomings and the discomfort of growth. A Stoic approach involves acknowledging the challenges the individual perceives, yet maintaining a clear boundary between understanding and enabling. It's important to empathize without becoming embroiled in their narrative. This means offering support while encouraging accountability, fostering an environment where constructive feedback is given and received openly. Stoics believe in the virtue of truth and honesty, and by adhering to these principles, we can help guide someone out of the victim mindset by encouraging them to see situations more objectively. Furthermore, Stoicism emphasizes our responsibility to our own mental peace. When interacting with someone who has a victim mentality, Stoicism, it's crucial to protect our well-being by not allowing their perspective to distort our reality. We must remain firm in our understanding and convictions, ensuring that our actions reflect our values and not reactive responses to manipulative behaviors. Dealing with a victim mentality through a Stoic lens teaches us the balance between compassion and detachment. We learn to offer help without getting dragged into emotional turmoil, promoting a healthier dynamic that encourages personal responsibility and growth, both for ourselves and the individual displaying these traits. Sign number 8, superiority complex. This is a trait where an individual consistently believes they are better, smarter, or more important than others, often expressing disdain for those they consider inferior. This mindset doesn't just strain relationships. It creates a divisive atmosphere where genuine connection and mutual respect are nearly impossible. People with a superiority complex often expect special treatment and may become indignant if they feel they're not receiving the deference they believe they deserve. Stoicism offers profound insights into dealing with this trait. Stoics advocate for humility and the equality of all people in terms of moral worth. They teach that true superiority is achieved through virtue and wisdom, not social status or wealth. A person with a Stoic mindset understands that everyone has something valuable to offer and that learning from others is a lifelong process. This perspective is grounding. It reminds us that we are all part of the human community, each with our own strengths and weaknesses. When interacting with someone exhibiting a superiority complex, a Stoic approach involves maintaining one's composure and not engaging in power struggles or ego battles. Stoicism teaches us not to take arrogance personally. Rather, we see it as an expression of the other person's inner turmoil or insecurity. By responding with calmness and not feeding into their need for superiority, we can sometimes encourage a more balanced interaction. Moreover, Stoics focus on self-improvement rather than trying to diminish others to boost their self-esteem. When faced with someone who has a superiority complex, Stoics, we can use the interaction as an opportunity to practice patience, understanding, and perhaps to gently challenge their views in a respectful and thoughtful manner. Stoicism encourages us to lead by example, showing through our actions that a calm and balanced demeanor is more effective and rewarding than one built on self-aggrandizement. Dealing with a superiority complex through Stoicism involves a deep understanding of equality and the transient nature of external achievements. It teaches us to anchor our self-worth in our moral values rather than comparative metrics, and in doing so provide a subtle, enduring example to those who may feel compelled to assert their dominance in less constructive ways. This approach doesn't just help diffuse tension, it fosters a more inclusive and respectful environment. Sign number 9. Jealousy and envy. Picture someone who seems perpetually discontented with what others have, whether it's their success, relationships, or possessions. This person might downplay others' achievements, spread negativity, or even sabotage others' efforts out of a sense of envy. Jealousy and envy are destructive emotions that not only harm relationships, but also corrode the inner peace of the person harboring these feelings. From a Stoic perspective, jealousy and envy are viewed as irrational and self-harming emotions rooted in misguided values. Stoics believe that our contentment should come from within, based on our virtues and our control over our own actions, rather than external circumstances or comparisons with others. They teach that the good life depends on our internal moral state, not on external possessions or status. When faced with jealousy or envy, a Stoic approach encourages us to focus on gratitude and the cultivation of personal excellence. Instead of fixating on what others have, Stoics would advise us to appreciate what we possess and work on improving ourselves. This aligns with the Stoic principle of focusing on what we can control, rather than expending energy on what is beyond our reach or irrelevant to our moral self. In dealing with a person who exhibits jealousy and envy, Stoicism teaches us to respond with empathy and understanding, recognizing that these emotions often stem from insecurity or dissatisfaction with one's own life. By embodying a spirit of generosity and non-competitiveness, we can potentially inspire others to reflect on their own attitudes and perhaps reconsider their approach to life and happiness. Moreover, Stoicism advises us to guard against letting ourselves be influenced by others' jealous or envious behaviors. It teaches us resilience, allowing us to remain unaffected by the negative energies of others, maintaining our focus on our own path and personal development. This not only helps in cultivating a healthy self-image, but also promotes a more supportive and less competitive community. Handling jealousy and envy with Stoic wisdom involves turning inward to our own virtues and outward with compassion and understanding. This approach not only helps mitigate the harmful impacts of such emotions, but also fosters an environment where individuals are encouraged to be the best versions of themselves, free from the constraints of comparison and resentment. Sign number 10. Lack of empathy. Imagine someone who seems unable to connect with or understand the emotions of others. They might dismiss your feelings as irrelevant or overreactive, or they could overlook the emotional distress of others entirely, focusing solely on logic or their own needs. This lack of empathy not only makes meaningful relationships difficult, but can also lead to a cold and isolating environment for everyone involved. Stoicism, while often misunderstood as promoting emotional detachment, actually offers a valuable perspective on empathy. Stoics strive for an understanding of human nature and emotions, fostering a rational and compassionate response to the suffering of others. They believe in the importance of community and support, recognizing that our lives are interconnected and that the well-being of others directly impacts our own. In a Stoic approach to a lack of empathy, one would be encouraged to cultivate their ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Not necessarily through emotional contagion, but through a deep rational comprehension of human frailties and needs. Stoics practice prosoph, or attentive awareness, which involves being mindful of our thoughts and reactions and extending this awareness to the emotions and needs of others around us. When dealing with someone who exhibits a lack of empathy, Stoicism teaches us to lead by example. By demonstrating empathy ourselves, we can sometimes inspire it in others. This involves actively listening, validating others' feelings, and showing genuine concern and support. The Stoic concept of sympatheia, or mutual interdependence, underscores the idea that by helping to strengthen the emotional understanding of those around us, we contribute to a more harmonious and supportive community. Furthermore, Stoicism encourages us to remain patient and non-judgmental toward those who seem lacking in empathy. It's possible that their emotional responses have been conditioned by experiences or inherent traits that limit their capacity for empathy. Rather than condemning this lack, Stoics would advise us to provide an example of compassionate rationality, offering insights into the benefits of emotional connection without forcing change. Thank you for joining us today. As we navigate the complexities of human behavior, remember, the strength of your character is measured not by the absence of challenges, but by your response to them. Embrace the wisdom of Stoicism, enrich your understanding, and transform challenges into stepping stones towards personal growth. Please take a moment to watch one of the suggested videos on the screen to continue your journey with us. Thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal, where wisdom meets daily life. Together, let's cultivate a life of virtue and tranquility. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about the things which are beyond the power of our will. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today. You are arranging what lies in fortune's control and abandoning what lies in yours. What are you looking at? To what goal are you straining? The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things. Thus death is nothing terrible, else it would have appeared so to Socrates. But the terror consists in our notion of death, that it is terrible. When therefore we are hindered or disturbed or grieved, let us never impute it to others, but to ourselves, that is, to our own views. It is the action of an uninstructed person to reproach others for his own misfortunes, of one entering upon instruction to reproach himself, and of one perfectly instructed to reproach neither others or himself. They lose the day in expectation of the night, and the night in fear of the dawn. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Live a good life. If there are gods and they are just, then they will not care how devout you have been, but will welcome you based on the virtues you have lived by. If there are gods but unjust, then you should not want to worship them. If there are no gods, then you will be gone, but will have lived a noble life that will live on in the memories of your loved ones. If you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. Not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient. For he that is so wants nothing. The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not. For what prevents us from saying that the happy life is to have a mind that is free, lofty, fearless and steadfast, a mind that is placed beyond the reach of fear, beyond the reach of desire, that counts virtue the only good, baseness the only evil, and all else but a worthless mass of things, which come and go without increasing or diminishing the highest good, and neither subtracting any part from the happy life, nor add any part to it. A man thus grounded must, whether he wills or not, necessarily be attended by constant cheerfulness and a joy that is deep and issues from deep within, since he finds delight in his own resources, and desires no joys greater than his inner joys. When someone wrongs you, ask yourself what made him do it. Once you understand his concept of good and evil, you'll feel sorry for him and cease to either be amazed or angry. If his concept is similar to yours, then you will be bound to forgive him, since you would have acted as he did in similar circumstances. But if you do not share his ideas of good and evil, then you should find it easier to overlook the wrongs of someone who is confused and in a moral muddle. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. He can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by him. Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself. Don't seek to have events happen as you wish. Learn but wish them to happen as they do happen, and all will be well with you. God has entrusted me with myself. No man is free who is not master of himself. A man should live so that his happiness shall depend as little as possible on external things. Know you not that a good man does nothing for appearance sake, but for the sake of having done right? If you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to what others think, you will never be rich. All cruelty springs from weakness. Nothing, to my way of thinking, is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and pass some time in his own company. A gift consists not in what is done or given, but in the intention of the giver or doer. You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. You live as if you were destined to live forever. No thought of your frailty ever enters your head. Of how much time has already gone by, you take no heed. You squander time as if you drew from a full and abundant supply, though all the while that day which you bestow on some person or thing is perhaps your last. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. How much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only at what he does himself to make it just and holy. Begin each day by telling yourself, I shall be met with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. All of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil. But for my part, I have long perceived the nature of good and its nobility, the nature of evil and its meanness, and also the nature of the culprit himself, who is my brother. Not in the physical sense, but as a fellow creature similarly endowed with reason and a share of the divine. Therefore, none of those things can injure me. For nobody can implicate me in what is degrading, neither can I be angry with my brother or fall foul of him. For he and I were born to work together, like a man's 2 hands, feet or eyelids, or the upper and lower rows of his teeth. To obstruct each other is against nature's law, and what is irritation or aversion but a form of obstruction? If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, he was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone. It seems to often do more harm than good to live in resentment and disdain for the world around us. The world we find ourselves in, its past and present, its people, and the rise and fall of its cultures and practices are all the way they are. They are not the way we personally want them to be. When we resist the reality of the world around us and instead project onto it our expectation about how the world should be, we are often met with a certain level of internal resistance. Resistance that can cause us to suffer. And the greater the distance between reality and our expectation, the greater the resistance. The world is what it is. It is not what we expect it to be. Learn to accept life. Learn to love fate and all but it brings. This is the Stoic principle of amor fati, to love fate. After all, fate has given us the ability to live and to experience life. Unfortunately, amor fati often gets confused with a passive, defeatist acceptance of the world around us. To accept the wrongs of the world and to lie down as we observe the passing of things we don't agree with, or the wrongdoing we see being committed. But I believe this is a misunderstanding of the Stoic principle. Acceptance of reality does not mean to submit to it. It is simply learning the ability to see it objectively and accepting that in this moment that is the state of the world. It is the ability to look at the things around us clearly, not through the lens of our own bias and expectations. In doing so, we are better able to understand the situations around us. The reality of the situations we find ourselves in, unblinded by the lens of our own bias and expectations. We then are able to more clearly understand what is within our control and what is not, and then look to leverage that control to effect change first in ourselves, and then, if possible, in the world around us for the better. Whenever you feel anger towards a person, think of what led them to behave in such a way. It is all too easy for us to pass judgment from our own perspective, but it is a very different thing to try and put yourself in the shoes of the wrongdoer and try to understand what hardship they have gone through, what burden they might carry, or how life has treated them leading up to the moment which you found so offensive. Most people are trying to do the best they can with what they have. And while we all are responsible for our actions, there is often a line to draw between a person's experience and their behavior. To me, one of the great ironies of life is a man's desire to find comfort, to remove all sources of hardship and suffering in favor of comfort when applied to our core needs like food, shelter, security, and companionship. Comfort and stability to me do make sense, but when it exceeds to every corner of our lives, comfort and the removal of all hardship seems to me to bring with it its own brand of hardship. Instead of putting ourselves into the unknown, expanding our comfort zone and learning to deal with the adversity that comes with it, excessive comfort seems to risk the opposite. It erodes our resilience to hardship, can breed purposelessness, apathy, sloth, and the host of limitations that come with a shrinking comfort circle. It seems to me that one of the lesser thought of challenges of modern life is to balance the comfort that comes when our base needs are met with the voluntary hardship that is needed to make sure that comfort doesn't soften our resolve. The ancient Stoics advocated voluntary hardship. Marcus Aurelius chose to sleep on an uncomfortable bed. Seneca chose to swim in rivers in the dead of winter. Both men were all too aware of the risks of becoming too comfortable and the benefits of adding discomfort to one's life. Day to day, we often distance ourselves from death, often thinking that it is something that happens to others or to us many, many years from now. But the truth is that death is at our shoulder every day, an ever-present fact of life. Today may very well be your last. Living with this as a reminder brings with it a deep gratitude for many of the things we take for granted, knowing that whatever it is may be one of the last few times we are able to experience it. Whether that be sound of leaves in the wind, the company of those we love, or simply the taste of good food. To the Stoics, this was the practice of memento mori, the practice of remembering death. The nature of life has changed from the very first shifts of the universe. The most simple of elements gathered together to produce clouds and then solid bodies. Bodies that began to form the very first ingredients for life. Those ingredients formed life, the circle of birth and death, until eventually they came together in the exact configuration needed to create you and me. Like the beginning, the peak, and the crashing end of a wave, our lives are simply part of a grander cycle. We are formed, we experience, and we end. And with our end comes the opportunity for the reconfiguration of our atoms to allow another to come and go, and to enjoy the experience of life, and so on forever. The nature of the entire universe is change, from the very big to the very small. Lives are often not made better in the accomplishments of lofty goals or the collection of expensive things, so much as they are improved by the small day-to-day changes of one's habits, the decisions to wake up a little earlier, get out of the house a little more often, go for a run, read that book that's been gathering dust, or try to be more present in the company of the things and people we love. While of course great achievements do contribute to it, habits built over time, not short bursts of joy, are often the paving stones to a happier life. There is a delicate balance to be had when looking to the future and the past. The future is necessary for long-term planning and preparation for events that seem likely to happen. However, look too long towards the horizon and it's easy to let life slip by and miss the very thing you've spent all that time planning and preparing for. Similarly, the past can be used as a tool to learn, but looking back to what was may also mean that you missed the life into which you've taken all the lessons of the past. The future can be used to plan and prepare. The past can be used to learn, but life only happens in the present. When I meet death, as we all must do, the time and place will be largely outside of my control. If tomorrow, then I will die tomorrow, and if a year from now or 20 years from now, then I will meet it then. It is in the very nature of a living thing to die, regardless of how much we resist it. However, for now I am alive. So I will put to use what is within my control and decide what to do with the time that is given to me. I am not soothing you or making light of your misfortune. If fate can be overcome by tears, let us bring tears to bear upon it. Let every day be passed in mourning, every night be spent in sorrow instead of sleep. Let your breast be torn by your own hands, your very face attacked by them, and every kind of cruelty be practiced by your grief, if it will profit you. But if the dead cannot be brought back to life, however much we may beat our breasts, if destiny remains fixed and immovable forever, not to be changed by any sorrow, however great, and death does not loose his hold on anything that he has once taken away, then let our futile grief be brought to an end. Let us then steer our own course, and no longer allow ourselves to be driven to leeward by the force of our misfortune. He is a sorry pilot who lets the waves wring his rudder from his grasp, who leaves the sails to fly loose and abandons the ship to the storm. But he who boldly grasps the helm and clings to it until the sea closes over him deserves praise, even though he be shipwrecked. Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. There are misfortunes which strike the sage without incapacitating him, of course, such as physical pain, infirmity, the loss of friends or children, or the catastrophes of his country when it is devastated by war. I grant that he is sensitive to these things, for we do not impute to him the hardness of rock or of iron. There is no virtue in putting up with that which one does not feel. And they say that there is this difference between the mind of a foolish man and that of a wise man, that the foolish man thinks that such visions are in fact as dreadful and terrifying as they appear at the original impact of them on his mind. And by his assent he approves of such ideas as if they were rightly to be feared, and confirms them. But the wise man, after being affected for a short time and slightly in his color and expression, does not assent, but retains the steadfastness and strength of the opinion which he has always had about visions of this kind, namely that they are in no wise to be feared, but excite terror by a false appearance and vain alarms. Don't you know life is like a military campaign? One must serve on watch, another in reconnaissance, another on the front line. So it is for us. Each person's life is a kind of battle, and a long and varied one too. You must keep watch like a soldier and do everything commanded. You have been stationed in a key post, not some lowly place, and not for a short time, but for life. Seek not for events to happen as you wish, but wish events to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself, which are externals not under my control, and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil? Not to uncontrollable externals, but within myself, to the choices that are my own. One ought to seek out virtue for its own sake, without being influenced by fear or hope, or by any external influence. Moreover, that in that does happiness consist. What is your art? To be good, and how is this accomplished well, except by general principles, some about the nature of the universe, and others about the proper constitution of man? In our control is the most beautiful and important thing, the thing because of which even the God himself is happy, namely the proper use of our impressions. We must concern ourselves absolutely with the things that are under our control, and entrust the things not in our control to the universe. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the principles and notions which they form concerning things. It is the act of an ill-instructed man to blame others for his own bad condition. It is the act of one who has begun to be instructed to lay the blame on himself, and of one whose instruction is completed neither to blame another nor himself. One who knows not who he is, and to what end he was born, what kind of world is this, and with whom he is associated therein. One who cannot distinguish good and evil, beauty and foulness, truth and falsehood, will never follow reason in shaping his desires and impulses and repulsions, nor yet in assent, denial, or suspension of judgment, but will in one word go about deaf and blind, thinking himself to be somewhat, when he is in truth of no account. Is there anything new in all this? Is not this ignorance the cause of all the mistakes and mischances of men since the human race began? We are all chained to fortune. The chain of one is made of gold and wide, while that of another is short and rusty, but what difference does it make? The same prison surrounds all of us, and even those who have bound others are bound themselves. Unless perchance you think that a chain on the left side is lighter, honors bind one man, wealth another. Nobility oppresses some, humility others. Some are held in subjection by an external power, while others obey the tyrant within. Banishments keep some in place, the priesthood others. All life is slavery. Therefore, each one must accustom himself to his own condition and complain about it as little as possible, and lay hold to whatever good is to be found near him. Nothing is so bitter that a calm mind cannot find comfort in it. Small tablets, because of the writer's skill, have often served for many purposes, and a clever arrangement has often made a very narrow piece of land habitable. Apply reason to difficulties. Harsh circumstances can be softened, narrow limits can be widened, and burdensome things can be made to press less severely on those who bear them cleverly. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. These reasonings are unconnected. I am richer than you, therefore I am better. I am more eloquent than you, therefore I am better. The connection is rather this: I am richer than you, therefore my property is greater than yours. I am more eloquent than you, therefore my style is better than yours. But you, after all, are neither property nor style. If you have given way to anger, be sure that over and above the evil involved therein, you have strengthened the habit and added fuel to the fire. If overcome by a temptation of the flesh, do not reckon it a single defeat, but that you have also strengthened your dissolute habits. Habits and faculties are necessarily affected by the corresponding acts. One who has had fever, even when it has left him, is not in the same condition of health as before, unless indeed his cure is complete. Something of the same sort is true also of diseases of the mind. Behind there remains a legacy of traces and of blisters, and unless these are effectually erased, subsequent blows on the same spot will produce no longer mere blisters but sores. If you do not wish to be prone to anger, do not feed the habit. Give it nothing which may tend to its increase. At first, keep quiet and count the days when you were not angry. I used to be angry every day, then every other day, next every 2, next every 3 days. And if you succeed in passing 30 days, sacrifice to the gods in thanksgiving. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do? Or is this what I was created for, to huddle under the blankets and stay warm? Until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. We've been using them not because we needed them, but because we had them. If you seek tranquility, do less. Or more accurately, do what's essential, what the logos of a social being requires, and in the requisite way, which brings a double satisfaction to do less better. Because most of what we say and do is not essential. If you can eliminate it, you'll have more time and more tranquility. Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? Riches are a cause of evil. Not because of themselves they do any evil, but because they goad men on so that they are ready to do evil. In general, any method of discipline applied to the body which tends to modify its desires or repulsions are good for ascetic ends. But if done for display, they betray at once a man who keeps an eye on outward show, who has an ulterior purpose, and is looking for spectators to shout, "Oh, what a great man!" This is why Apollonius so well said, if you are bent upon a little private discipline, wait till you are choking with heat one day, then take a mouthful of cold water and spit it out again and tell no man. What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bees. A commitment to justice in your own acts, which means thought and action resulting in the common good, what you were born to do. Men do not care how nobly they live, but only how long. Although it is within the reach of every man to live nobly, but within no man's power to live long. He who is running a race ought to endeavor and strive to the utmost of his ability to come off victor, but it is utterly wrong for him to trip up his competitor or to push him aside. So in life it is not unfair for one to seek for himself what may accrue to his benefit, but it is not right to take it from another. For mankind, evil is injustice and cruelty and indifference to a neighbor's trouble, while virtue is brotherly love and goodness and justice and beneficence and concern for the welfare of your neighbor. The courageous in exile or at home is fearless in the face of all such threats. For that reason, they've the courage to say what they think equally at home or in exile. Philosophy does not promise to secure anything external for a man, otherwise it would be admitting something that lies beyond its proper subject matter. For as the material of the carpenter is wood, and that of statuary bronze, so the subject matter of the art of living is each person's own life. My advice is really this: what we hear the philosophers saying and what we find in their writings should be applied in our pursuit of the happy life. We should hunt out the helpful pieces of teaching and the spirited and noble-minded sayings which are capable of immediate practical application, not far-fetched or archaic expressions or extravagant metaphors and figures of speech, and learn them so well that the words become works. No one to my mind lets humanity down quite so much as those who study philosophy as if it were a sort of commercial skill, and then proceeds to live in a quite different manner to the one they tell other people to live. It does not matter what you bear, but how you bear it. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil, not two uncontrollable externals, but within myself to the choices that are my own? True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient, for he that is so wants nothing. The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after, and the truth never harmed anyone. If you accomplish something good with hard work, the labor passes quickly, but the good endures. If you do something shameful in pursuit of pleasure, the pleasure passes quickly, but the shame endures. A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. No person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they don't have, and to cheerfully put to good use what they do have. You will earn the respect of all if you begin by earning the respect of yourself. Don't expect to encourage good deeds in people conscious of your own misdeeds. The greatest discovery of any generation is that a human can alter his life by altering his attitude. Excellence is never an accident. It is always the result of high intentions, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. It represents the wise choice of many alternatives. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Man conquers the world by conquering himself. How does it help to make troubles heavier by bemoaning them? You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. You should live in such a way that there is nothing which you could not as easily tell your enemy as keep to yourself. Waking up to who you are requires letting go of who you imagine yourself to be. The high-minded man must care more for the truth than for what people think. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we say. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Don't promise twice what you can do once. A man who has committed a mistake and doesn't correct it is committing another mistake. He who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. Remember 2 things. 1. That everything has always been the same and keeps recurring, and it makes no difference whether you see the same things recur in 100 years or 200 or in an infinite period. 2. That the longest lived and those who will die soonest lose the same thing. The present is all they can give up, since that is all you have, and what you do not have you cannot lose. Ultimately, man should not ask what the meaning of his life is, but rather he must recognize that it is he who is asked. In a word, each man is questioned by life, and he can only answer to life by answering for his own life. To life he can only respond by being responsible. No amount of anxiety makes any difference to anything that is going to happen. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Nothing, to my way of thinking, is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and pass some time in his own company. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. I begin to speak only when I'm certain what I'll say isn't better left unsaid. All Hellenistic schools seem to define wisdom in approximately the same terms, first and foremost as a state of perfect peace of mind. From this viewpoint, philosophy appears as a remedy for human worries, anguish and misery brought about for the cynics by social constraints and conventions, for the Epicureans by the quest for false pleasures, for the Stoics by the pursuit of pleasure and egotistic self-interest, and for the skeptics by false opinions. Whether or not they lay claim to the Socratic heritage, all Hellenistic philosophers agreed with Socrates that human beings are plunged into misery, anguish and evil because they exist in ignorance. Evil is to be found not within things, but in the value judgments which people bring to bear upon things. People can therefore be cured of their ills only if they are persuaded to change their value judgments. And in this sense, all these philosophies wanted to be therapeutic. Simplicity, patience, compassion. These three are your greatest treasures. Simple in actions and thoughts, you return to the source of being. Patient with both friends and enemies, you accord with the way things are. Compassionate towards yourself, you reconcile all beings in the world. Taoism is the art of being in the world, for it deals with the present ourselves. It is in us that God meets with nature, and yesterday parts from tomorrow. The present is the moving infinity, the legitimate sphere of the relative. Relativity seeks adjustment. Adjustment is art. The art of life lies in a constant readjustment to our surroundings. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. Let your eyes see what they see, not what others want you to see. Let your ears hear what they naturally hear, not what others want you to hear. Let your mouth speak your mind freely, and not be constrained by other people's approval or disapproval. Let your mind think what it wants to think, and not let other people's demands dictate your thoughts. If your senses and your mind are not allowed to do what they want to do naturally, you are denying them their rights. When you cannot think, sense, feel, or act freely, then your body and mind are injured. Break these oppressions and you will cultivate life. Be careful what you water your dreams with. Water them with worry and fear, and you will produce weeds that choke the life from your dreams. Water them with optimism and solutions, and you will cultivate success. Always be on the lookout for ways to turn a problem into an opportunity for success. Always be on the lookout for ways to nurture your dream. Strength should always be complemented by softness. If you resist too much, you will break. Thus, the strong person knows when to use strength and when to yield. And good fortune and disaster depend on whether you know how and when to yield. Those who do not know how to suffer are the worst off. There are times when the only thing we can do is to bear our troubles until a better day. To solve a problem, you need to remove the cause, not the symptom. To know and to think we know not is the crown. To not know and to think we know is the affliction. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. If a branch is too rigid, it will break. Resist and you will perish. Know how to yield and you will survive. Only he who has no use for the empire is fit to be entrusted with it. At the center of your being you have the answer. You know who you are and you know what you want. Life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward into whatever way they like. Kindness in words creates confidence. Kindness in thinking creates profoundness. Kindness in giving creates love. A person with a mind is bound to be filled with conceptions. These conceptions prevent him from knowing things directly, so a person with a mind shall never really know. Trying to explain Zen is like trying to catch wind in a box. The moment you close the lid, it ceases to be wind and in time becomes stagnant air. A good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent on arriving. When you are content to simply be yourself and don't compare or compete, everyone will respect you. The fact is that those who do not see themselves, but who see others, who fail to get a grasp of themselves, but who grasp others, take possessions of what others have but fail to possess themselves. They are attracted to what others enjoy, but fail to find enjoyment in themselves. If you play a game where scrap pieces of glass are at stake, you will play skillfully. If your expensive belt buckle is at stake, you'll start to get clumsy. If it's your money that's at stake, you'll fumble. It's not that you've lost your skill, it's because you're so flustered by things happening outside that you've lost your calmness inside, lose your stillness, and you will fail in everything you do. A man with outward courage dares to die. A man with inner courage dares to live. A man like this will not go where he has no will to go, will not do what he has no mind to do. Though the world might praise him and say he had really found something, he would look unconcerned and never turn his head. Though the world might condemn him and say he has lost something, he would look serene and pay no heed. The praise and blame of the world are no loss or gain to him. Things joined by profit when pressed by misfortune and danger will cast each other aside. Let your mind wander in simplicity. Blend your spirit with the vastness, follow along with things the way they are, and make no room for personal views. Then the world will be governed. A beam or pillar can be used to batter down a city wall, but it is no good for stopping up a little hole. This refers to a difference in function. Thoroughbreds like Kiji or Huali could gallop 1,000 li in one day, but when it came to catching rats, they were no match for the wild cat or the weasel. This refers to a difference in skill. The horned owl catches fleas at night and can spot the tip of a hair. But when daylight comes, no matter how wide it opens its eyes, it cannot see a mound or a hill. This refers to a difference in nature. Now do you say that you are going to make right your master and do away with wrong, or make order your master and do away with disorder? If you do, then you have not understood the principle of heaven and earth, or the nature of the 10,000 things. This is like saying that you are going to make heaven your master and do away with earth, or make yin your master and do away with yang. Obviously, it is impossible. We may be floating on Tao, but there is nothing wrong with steering. If Tao is like a river, it is certainly good to know where the rocks are. Great power is worry, and total power is boredom, such that even God renounces it and pretends instead that he is people and fish and insects and plants, the myth of the king who goes wandering among his subjects in disguise. Travel is such a wonderful experience, especially when you forget you are traveling, then you will enjoy whatever you see and do. Those who look into themselves when they travel will not think about what they see. In fact, there is no distinction between the viewer and the scene. You experience everything with the totality of yourself, so that every blade of grass, every mountain, every lake is alive and is a part of you when there is no division between you and what is other. This is the ultimate experience of traveling. To attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, remove things every day. The blank canvas stares back at you. The cursor blinks on an empty screen. The guitar sits untouched in the corner of the room. You want to create something extraordinary, something that will inspire or move others. But doubt whispers in your ear. What if it's not good enough? What if I can't even begin? These moments of creative struggle are all too familiar, even to the most talented and experienced creators. Imagine a painter overwhelmed by the sheer possibilities of the first stroke, a writer paralyzed by fear of judgment, or a musician weighed down by the pressure to outperform their last piece. Creativity, while beautiful, can often feel like a battle, one where the greatest challenge lies not in the work itself, but within the mind. But what if you could approach creativity differently? What if, instead of battling doubt and frustration, you could harness the power of ancient wisdom to find clarity, focus, and freedom in the creative process? This is where Stoicism, a philosophy rooted in virtue, reason, and resilience, can transform how you think about creating. 10 Stoic secrets that can help unleash your creative genius. Whether you're a writer, artist, entrepreneur, or simply someone seeking to think more innovatively, these timeless principles will guide you through the obstacles of self-doubt, perfectionism, and fear. Let's begin with the foundation of creativity, understanding the challenges and how Stoicism can help us overcome them. 1. The creative struggle. Understanding the challenges. Creativity is often romanticized as a mystical process, an effortless flow of inspiration and ideas. But for anyone who's ever tried to create, the reality is much more complicated. The blank page can feel daunting. Doubts creep in, whispering that your work won't measure up. Frustration builds when progress is slow, or when the final result doesn't match your vision. And then there's the ever-present fear of failure, of putting yourself out there only to face criticism or rejection. These challenges aren't just obstacles. They can feel like insurmountable walls. Creativity requires vulnerability, and vulnerability invites fear. Whether you're a painter struggling to bring a concept to life, a writer grappling with an elusive plot, or an entrepreneur stuck in a loop of indecision, the battle often isn't with the work itself, but with the mind. David Hume, a philosopher of a different era, famously said, "A wise man proportions his belief to the evidence." Yet in moments of creative struggle, the evidence often skews towards self-doubt. What if I'm not good enough? What if no one cares? This mental chatter clouds judgment and stifles the flow of ideas. The Stoics understood these mental battles long before creative blocks became a term. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." In other words, the barriers to creativity are often self-imposed. The fear of failure, the frustration of slow progress, the desire for perfection, these are constructs of the mind, not the reality of the creative process. Understanding these challenges is the first step to overcoming them. Start by acknowledging that self-doubt, frustration, and fear are normal parts of creativity. They don't mean you're untalented or doomed to fail. They simply mean you're human. Creativity thrives not in the absence of these feelings, but in learning to navigate them. One of the most common challenges is the fear of starting. The blank canvas or screen can feel like a mirror reflecting all your insecurities. To combat this, adopt the Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control. You can't guarantee that your work will be a masterpiece, but you can control the act of beginning. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Do every act of your life as though it were the last act of your life." Start small, take one step, and let the momentum build. Frustration is another frequent companion in the creative process. The idea in your head rarely translates perfectly onto the page, stage, or screen. Instead of resisting this frustration, embrace it as part of the journey. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Frustration isn't a sign of failure. It's proof that you're pushing yourself and striving for something greater. Fear of failure often looms largest. It's the voice that says, "Don't bother. It's not worth the risk." But the Stoics teach that failure isn't something to avoid. It's a necessary step on the path to mastery. Epictetus said, "He who is not thrown by setbacks will endure, but he who fears them is already defeated." Embrace the possibility of failure as a learning experience. Every misstep teaches you something valuable and brings you closer to success. Lastly, remember that creative struggles aren't unique to you. Every artist, writer, and creator has faced doubt, frustration, and fear. What separates those who succeed from those who give up is resilience, the ability to keep going despite the challenges. Creativity isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Ask yourself, what's holding me back right now? Is it fear, frustration, or doubt? How can I take one small step to move forward? By identifying the mental barriers you face and reframing them as opportunities for growth, you can transform the creative struggle into a powerful source of inspiration. As the Stoics remind us, it's not the challenges we face, but how we respond to them that defines our success. 2. What Stoicism can teach creatives. Creativity often feels like a chaotic process, fluctuating between bursts of inspiration and moments of doubt, frustration, or outright mental blocks. it's easy to feel overwhelmed, as though the creative journey is completely out of your control. But this is precisely where Stoicism, with its emphasis on reason, resilience, and clarity, becomes a powerful tool for creators. The philosophy offers timeless wisdom to help you navigate creative challenges and find balance amidst the unpredictability of the process. At its core, Stoicism is about living in harmony with virtue, reason, and nature. For a creative, this translates into aligning your work with your values, embracing challenges with a clear mind and focusing on what you can control. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Creativity isn't about controlling outcomes or ensuring that every project is a success. It's about showing up, doing the work, and letting go of what's beyond your control. One of the most significant lessons Stoicism teaches creatives is emotional control. Emotions like fear, self-doubt, and frustration can derail your progress if left unchecked. Epictetus advised, "Don't let the force of an impression when it first hits you knock you off your feet. Just say to it, 'Hold on a moment. Let me see who you are and what you represent. Let me put you to the test.'" This practice of pausing to evaluate your emotions is invaluable in the creative process. Instead of letting frustration over a stalled idea or fear of failure consume you, step back, observe the emotion, and choose a thoughtful response. Stoicism also emphasizes focusing on what is within your power, a principle that can transform how you approach creativity. As a creator, you can't control how your work will be received or whether it will succeed commercially. You can, however, control the effort you put into your craft, the time you dedicate to honing your skills, and the consistency with which you show up. By directing your energy toward these controllable aspects, you free yourself from the anxiety of external validation and concentrate on what truly matters, the process. Another Stoic principle, memento mori, remember that you will die, might seem morbid at first glance, but it's a profound motivator for creatives. The idea isn't to dwell on death, but to use it as a reminder to prioritize what's important. Marcus Aurelius reflected, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." For creators, this means making the most of your time and using your talents to produce meaningful work, rather than procrastinating or getting bogged down by perfectionism. Resilience, a cornerstone of Stoicism, is equally essential for creatives. The path of creativity is rarely smooth. There will be rejections, failures, and moments when inspiration feels out of reach. Seneca's words remind us, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Every setback you encounter is an opportunity to grow stronger and refine your craft. Instead of fearing failure, embrace it as a necessary step on the journey to mastery. Finally, Stoicism teaches the value of presence and mindfulness. Creativity thrives when you're fully immersed in the moment, free from distractions and mental clutter. The Stoics believed in focusing on the task at hand with undivided attention. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice, and on freeing yourself from all other distractions." This principle encourages you to approach your creative work with intention and discipline, allowing ideas to flow naturally. Ask yourself, how can I apply Stoic principles to my creative process? What emotions or external factors am I allowing to distract me from my work? By incorporating Stoic wisdom into your approach to creativity, you'll find greater clarity, resilience, and focus. Creativity isn't about controlling everything. It's about mastering yourself and the process. When you align with these principles, you unlock the potential to create with purpose, passion, and freedom. 3. The connection between calm and creativity. Creativity flourishes in a calm mind. When your thoughts are scattered, anxiety takes over, or distractions pile up, your creative energy is stifled. The Stoics understood that tranquility isn't just a luxury. It's a necessity for clarity, focus, and meaningful action. For creatives, achieving inner calm can be the difference between struggling with ideas and unlocking your full creative potential. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You can be happy if you know this. Some things are within your control and some things are not." This principle is the foundation of a calm mind. When you stop wasting energy on things you can't control, like the opinions of others, external pressures, or even fleeting emotions, you free yourself to focus on what truly matters, your craft. Why is calmness so essential for creativity? When your mind is calm, you're able to see ideas more clearly, make connections between them, and explore possibilities without the interference of stress or self-doubt. Anxiety, on the other hand, narrows your focus, causing you to fixate on fears or perceived limitations rather than solutions or opportunities. One of the most effective Stoic tools for cultivating calm is mindfulness, the practice of being fully present in the moment. Creativity thrives when you're immersed in the process, whether you're sketching a design, brainstorming ideas, or refining a piece of writing. Seneca said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." By focusing on the task at hand and letting go of distractions, you allow your mind to enter a state of flow where ideas come naturally and effortlessly. Another Stoic practice that promotes calm is reframing challenges. When faced with a creative block or frustrating setback, it's easy to let stress take over. Instead, apply the Stoic principle of amor fati, loving what happens. This doesn't mean you have to enjoy difficulties, but you can accept them as part of the process. Marcus Aurelius advised, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." A creative block, for example, isn't the end of the road. It's an opportunity to explore a new approach or dig deeper into your work. Reducing external distractions is also key to fostering calm and creativity. In today's world, constant notifications, deadlines, and noise compete for your attention. Create a space for your creativity that minimizes these distractions. A quiet room, a designated time free from interruptions, or even a simple ritual to signal that it's time to focus. This intentional separation from chaos allows your mind to settle and your ideas to flourish. Meditation is another tool that aligns with Stoic teachings and benefits creatives. Epictetus said, "Keep your attention focused entirely on what is truly your own concern, and be clear that what belongs to others is their business and none of yours." Meditating for even a few minutes a day can help you practice this focus, calm your racing thoughts, and create mental space for inspiration. Physical calmness contributes to mental clarity as well. Pay attention to your physical state. Tight shoulders, shallow breathing, or restlessness can indicate stress. Take a moment to relax your body, stretch, or practice deep breathing. These simple actions not only reduce tension, but also signal to your brain that it's safe to create and explore. Lastly, remember that calmness is a skill that improves with practice. The Stoics didn't view tranquility as something you achieve once and keep forever. It's a daily commitment. Start small by incorporating moments of calm into your creative routine. Take a few deep breaths before beginning a project. Reflect on your intentions for the day or pause to reset when frustration arises. Ask yourself, how can I create more calm in my creative process? What distractions or stresses can I let go of to focus more fully on my work? By embracing Stoic principles and cultivating inner peace, you'll find that creativity flows more freely and your ideas take shape with greater clarity and purpose. Calmness isn't the absence of challenges. It's the mindset that allows you to navigate them with confidence and creativity. Fourth, accepting what you can't control in creativity. One of the most liberating lessons from Stoicism is the art of letting go, accepting what is beyond your control. For creatives, this principle is transformative. The creative process is filled with uncertainties. How your work will be received, whether inspiration will strike, or if a project will meet your expectations. Clinging to these uncontrollable factors often leads to anxiety, frustration, and even burnout. But when you let go of what you can't control and focus on what you can, you unlock freedom and clarity. Epictetus famously said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." This simple truth is the cornerstone of Stoic thought and applies directly to creativity. You can't control how an audience will react to your work, but you can control the effort you put into it. You can't guarantee success, but you can commit to showing up every day and refining your craft. By shifting your focus to the controllable, you free yourself from unnecessary worry and give your best to the process. In creativity, one of the greatest sources of frustration is the need for external validation. Whether it's seeking approval from peers, chasing likes on social media, or obsessing over sales numbers, relying on others' opinions for your sense of worth is a recipe for disappointment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me." We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Instead of seeking validation, create because it aligns with your values, passions, and goals. Let your work be an expression of who you are, not a reaction to what others expect. Another common trap for creatives is fearing criticism or rejection. These are inevitable parts of the creative journey, yet they often hold people back from sharing their work or taking risks. The Stoics remind us that we can't control others' judgments, only our response to them. Seneca wrote, "You have been put in charge of yourself. No one can harm you without your consent." Criticism isn't a reflection of your worth. It's simply someone else's perspective. Use it as a tool for growth and let go of the rest. The need to control outcomes is another obstacle in the creative process. The Stoics, you might have a clear vision of how a project should turn out, only to feel frustrated when the result doesn't match your expectations. The Stoic principle of amor fati, or love of fate, teaches us to embrace outcomes, whether they align with our plans or not. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." Creativity is an unpredictable process, and often unexpected results lead to new insights or directions. By accepting what unfolds, you remain open to possibility and innovation. Practical strategies can help you apply this principle. Start by identifying what's within your control in your creative process. For example, you can control your effort, your consistency, and your willingness to learn. Focus on these aspects and let go of the rest. If you're working on a project, remind yourself that the outcome isn't entirely in your hands. What you can control is the quality of your input. Another approach is to develop a mantra or affirmation that reinforces this mindset. Repeat phrases like, "I focus on what I can do today," or "I release what's beyond my control." These reminders can ground you when doubts or frustrations arise. Visualization is also a powerful tool. Imagine yourself completing a project with full effort, regardless of the result. Picture how you'll feel knowing you gave it your best. Even if the reception isn't as you hoped, this practice helps you detach from the outcome and focus on the joy of creating. Finally, celebrate progress over perfection. Every small step you take, whether it's drafting a new idea, experimenting with a technique, or finishing a project, is a victory. By shifting your focus from the final product to the process itself, you create with greater freedom and satisfaction. Ask yourself, am I clinging to factors I can't control, or am I focusing on what's within my power? How can I let go of the need for validation and outcomes? The Stoics remind us that acceptance isn't about giving up. It's about redirecting your energy to where it matters most. By embracing this principle, you can navigate the creative process with resilience, clarity, and a sense of peace. 5. Cultivating resilience through Stoic philosophy. Resilience is the backbone of creativity, whether it's bouncing back from rejection, persevering through creative blocks, or finding the strength to keep going after a failure. Resilience allows you to face challenges without losing your momentum. David Goggins calls resilience the ability to stay in the fight, while the Stoics see it as the practice of enduring hardship with grace and strength. For creatives, cultivating resilience is about seeing every setback as an opportunity to grow stronger. Creative pursuits are often riddled with obstacles: a manuscript rejected by publishers, an art piece that doesn't resonate, or a performance met with criticism. These moments can feel deeply personal, even discouraging. But as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The Stoics teach that while we can't control external circumstances, we can control how we respond to them. Resilience begins with this mindset shift. The first step to cultivating resilience is reframing failure. In the Stoic view, failure is not an end, it's feedback. Epictetus said, difficulties are things that show a person what they are. Every rejection, every creative block, every misstep is a chance to learn something new about your craft or yourself. When you stop seeing failure as a verdict on your talent and start seeing it as a teacher, you strip it of its power to discourage you. Another critical element of resilience is persistence. Creative success rarely comes quickly. It's often the result of years of consistent effort. Seneca wrote, to bear trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength and burden. Resilience doesn't mean you won't feel frustration or doubt. It means you don't let those feelings stop you. Show up every day, even when it feels difficult, and trust that your effort will pay off over time. Stoicism also emphasizes the importance of preparing for adversity. The practice of premeditatio malorum, or premeditation of evils, involves imagining potential challenges and visualizing how you'll handle them. For example, if you're preparing to pitch a project, think through the possibility of rejection. How will you respond constructively? By mentally rehearsing these scenarios, you build the emotional resilience to face them with confidence. Journaling is a powerful Stoic tool for building resilience. Writing about your challenges, feelings, and reactions helps you process them and gain perspective. When you experience a creative setback, use journaling to reflect. What went wrong? What did I learn? How can I improve next time? This practice turns obstacles into stepping stones for growth. Resilience also requires managing your emotions. It's natural to feel upset when things don't go as planned, but dwelling on those emotions can drain your energy. Marcus Aurelius advised, you have to assemble your life yourself, action by action. Instead of fixating on what went wrong, focus on the next step you can take. This forward-thinking approach keeps you moving despite setbacks. As Seneca wrote, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Lastly, celebrate your small victories. Resilience isn't just about enduring hardship. It's about recognizing your progress along the way. Each time you overcome a challenge, no matter how minor, you build confidence in your ability to handle the next one. These moments reinforce your resilience and remind you of your growth. Ask yourself, how do I currently respond to creative setbacks? What practices can I adopt to strengthen my resilience? The Stoics and modern thinkers alike agree that resilience isn't a trait you're born with. It's a skill you can develop. By embracing challenges, reframing failure, and staying persistent, you'll cultivate the resilience needed to thrive in your creative journey. No setback is too great when you have the strength to rise again. 6. Stoic practices for creative inspiration. Creativity isn't always about waiting for a lightning bolt of inspiration. It's about cultivating habits and practices that clear mental clutter, spark fresh ideas, and keep your creative energy flowing. The Stoics, known for their disciplined approach to life, offer practical tools that align perfectly with the creative process. These practices help creatives stay grounded, overcome blocks, and unlock their full potential. 1. Journaling for clarity. One of the most effective Stoic practices for inspiration is journaling. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is essentially a journal, a private space where he reflected on his thoughts, challenges, and principles for creatives. Journaling serves as a way to declutter the mind and make space for new ideas. When you are stuck or overwhelmed, try writing down your thoughts. Ask yourself questions like, what's holding me back? What do I want to express? What steps can I take today to move forward? Journaling isn't about creating perfect prose. It's about getting your ideas out of your head and onto paper. By doing so, you gain clarity and often uncover insights that were hidden beneath the surface. 2. Meditation for mental space. The Stoics valued mindfulness long before it became a buzzword. Epictetus said, keep your attention focused entirely on what is truly your own concern, and be clear that what belongs to others is their business and none of yours. Meditation helps creatives quiet the noise of external distractions and reconnect with their inner thoughts. Spend just 5 to 10 minutes each day practicing mindfulness. Sit quietly, focus on your breath, and let go of any judgments or worries. This simple practice calms the mind and opens the door to creative insights. When you're stuck on a problem or searching for inspiration, meditation can help you approach it with a fresh perspective. 3. Visualization for focus. The Stoics often used visualization to prepare for challenges, and creatives can apply this technique to their projects. Before starting a new piece of work, spend a few minutes visualizing the process and the outcome. Imagine yourself immersed in the creative flow, overcoming obstacles and bringing your vision to life. Marcus Aurelius advised, begin each day by telling yourself what you'll face and how you'll respond. For creatives, this might mean imagining potential challenges like self-doubt or technical difficulties and mentally rehearsing how you'll navigate them. Visualization not only enhances focus, but also builds confidence in your ability to bring your ideas to fruition. 4. Embracing reflection. Reflection is another key Stoic practice. At the end of each day or creative session, take a moment to review your progress. What went well? What could you improve? Seneca wrote, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, I examine my entire day and measure what I have done and said." For creatives, reflection helps you track your growth, identify patterns, and refine your process. It's not about dwelling on mistakes, but learning from them. By regularly reflecting on your work, you create a feedback loop that fosters continuous improvement. 5. Practicing gratitude. Gratitude might not seem like a direct source of inspiration, but it shifts your mindset in powerful ways. When you're frustrated or stuck, pausing to appreciate your skills, opportunities, and past successes can reignite your creative energy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." Start or end your day by writing down 3 things you're grateful for in your creative journey. This practice helps you focus on the positives rather than fixating on setbacks, allowing inspiration to flow more freely. 6. Voluntary discomfort for growth. The Stoics believed that discomfort fosters growth. Epictetus encouraged practicing voluntary discomfort to build resilience. For creatives, this might mean trying something outside your comfort zone, like experimenting with a new medium, collaborating with others, or tackling a challenging project. Discomfort sparks innovation and forces you to think differently. When you embrace it, you break free from routine patterns and discover new creative possibilities. Ask yourself, which of these practices can I integrate into my routine today? How can I use Stoic principles to unlock my creative potential? By adopting these tools, you'll not only overcome blocks, but also create with greater clarity, focus, and purpose. Creativity thrives on discipline and reflection, both hallmarks of Stoic philosophy. Let these practices guide you toward your next great idea. 7. Embracing discomfort as a creative catalyst. Discomfort is often seen as something to avoid, a roadblock that halts progress. But for creatives, discomfort is a powerful catalyst for growth, innovation, and mastery. The Stoics understood this well, emphasizing the importance of embracing challenges and finding opportunities within adversity. For anyone seeking to unleash their creative genius, learning to work through discomfort is not optional, it's essential. The Stoic principle of amor fati, or love of fate, teaches us to accept and even embrace the difficulties we encounter. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." For creatives, this means using discomfort as fuel to sharpen your skills, refine your ideas, and push boundaries. Why is discomfort so valuable in the creative process? Because it forces you out of your comfort zone, where growth rarely occurs. When you challenge yourself with a new technique, take on an ambitious project, or tackle a topic that scares you, you stretch your abilities and expand your creative potential. Discomfort often accompanies these moments, but it's a sign that you're pushing into new territory. One way to embrace discomfort is to reframe how you perceive it. Instead of viewing challenges as obstacles, see them as opportunities to learn and grow. For example, if you're struggling to complete a project, ask yourself, What is this experience teaching me? How can I use this difficulty to improve my skills or mindset? By shifting your perspective, you turn discomfort into a tool for progress rather than a source of frustration. Another Stoic practice that applies here is voluntary hardship. The Stoics believed in intentionally exposing themselves to discomfort to build resilience and prepare for life's challenges. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" For creatives, this might mean deliberately stepping into unfamiliar creative processes or genres, knowing that the experience will sharpen your abilities. Experimentation is a practical way to embrace discomfort in your creative work. Try a new medium, explore a style outside your usual repertoire, or collaborate with someone whose approach differs from yours. These experiments may feel awkward or even intimidating at first, but they open the door to fresh ideas and unexpected breakthroughs. Discomfort also arises when you face criticism or rejection, a common experience for creatives. The Stoics remind us that we can't control others' opinions, only our response to them. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Instead of fearing criticism, view it as an opportunity to refine your work. What can you learn from the feedback? How can it guide you toward improvement? By embracing discomfort in the form of constructive criticism, you strengthen both your resilience and your craft. Time pressure and deadlines are another form of discomfort that can spark creativity. Many great works have emerged from the constraints of limited time or resources. Use these pressures as motivation to focus and prioritize, rather than as excuses to feel overwhelmed. Marcus Aurelius advised, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Constraints often force us to innovate, leading to solutions and ideas we might not have discovered otherwise. Reflection is key to turning discomfort into a creative catalyst. After completing a challenging project or navigating a difficult situation, take time to evaluate what you've gained from the experience. Did the discomfort lead to growth, new skills, or a fresh perspective? By reflecting, you reinforce the value of discomfort and become more willing to embrace it in the future. Finally, remind yourself that discomfort is temporary, but the rewards it brings are lasting. The fear or frustration you feel in the moment will fade, but the skills, resilience, and breakthroughs you gain will remain. Ask yourself, what discomfort am I avoiding, and how can I use it to fuel my creative growth? The Stoics teach us that the fire of discomfort doesn't burn us, it refines us. For creatives, embracing discomfort is the key to unlocking your full potential and creating work that truly resonates. 8. Shifting focus from perfection to progress. The pursuit of perfection is a trap that many creatives fall into. You want your work to be flawless, to live up to your vision, and to impress others. But this obsession with perfection often leads to frustration, procrastination, and even abandoning projects altogether. Stoicism offers a refreshing perspective. Value progress over perfection. By shifting your focus, you free yourself from the paralyzing need to create perfect work and instead embrace the joy of consistent improvement. The Stoics believed that excellence comes not from achieving perfection, but from making steady progress. Seneca wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." In the creative process, daring to take the first step, even if it's imperfect, is what sets progress in motion. Waiting for perfection often means waiting forever. One of the reasons perfectionism is so harmful is that it creates unrealistic expectations. You may compare your initial efforts to the polished work of others, forgetting that their finished product is the result of countless iterations and failures. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Don't be ashamed of needing help. You have a duty to fulfill, just like a soldier on the wall of battle." Your duty as a creative is to show up, take action, and let progress build over time. The first step to shifting your focus is accepting that imperfection is part of the process. Every masterpiece begins with a rough draft, every symphony with a few disjointed notes. Marcus Aurelius, the key is to start and trust that refinement will come later. When you're tempted to stall because your work isn't good enough, remind yourself that progress, not perfection, is the goal. Another Stoic principle that combats perfectionism is detachment from outcomes. Epictetus said, "Keep your will in line with events as they happen. Accept what is given." Instead of fixating on creating the perfect piece of work, focus on the effort and intention you bring to it. What can you control today? Your time, your practice, and your dedication. These are the building blocks of meaningful progress. Adopting a growth mindset also helps shift your perspective. Instead of seeing imperfections as failures, view them as opportunities to learn and improve. Each mistake teaches you something valuable, whether it's a technique to refine or an idea to explore further. Ask yourself, what did I learn from this effort? And how can I apply it moving forward? Setting smaller, achievable goals can also reduce the pressure of perfectionism. If you're working on a novel, focus on completing one chapter rather than perfecting the entire book. If you're painting, aim to finish a rough draft rather than obsessing over every detail. These smaller milestones keep you motivated and make the larger goal feel less overwhelming. The Stoics also emphasize the value of consistent effort. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Consistency matters more than perfection. A small imperfect effort repeated daily will yield far greater results than waiting for the perfect moment or idea to strike. Reflection is another powerful tool. At the end of each creative session, take a moment to acknowledge what you accomplished. Instead of criticizing what's unfinished or imperfect, celebrate the progress you made. This practice reinforces the habit of focusing on growth rather than flawlessness. Lastly, remember that perfection is subjective. What feels imperfect to you might resonate deeply with someone else. Creativity is not about meeting an impossible standard. It's about expressing your unique perspective and connecting with others. By letting go of perfectionism, you allow your authentic voice to shine through. Ask yourself, am I focusing on progress or am I stuck chasing perfection? How can I take one step today to move forward, even if it's imperfect? The Stoics remind us that the journey, not the destination, is where growth and fulfillment lie. Embrace the beauty of progress, and you'll find that your creative potential expands far beyond the limits of perfection. 9. The role of gratitude in the creative process. Creativity is a gift, but in the pursuit of excellence, it's easy to lose sight of what you already have. Frustration, self-doubt, and comparison can cloud your perspective, making you feel like you're falling short. This is where gratitude becomes a powerful tool, not just for shifting your mindset, but for unlocking deeper inspiration and joy in your creative journey. The Stoics believed in the transformative power of gratitude, and for creatives, it's a practice that can reframe challenges and fuel growth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive. To think, to enjoy, to love." For a creative, this privilege extends to the ability to imagine, to express, and to contribute something unique to the world. Gratitude grounds you in the present moment, helping you focus on the opportunities you have, rather than the obstacles in your way. One of the most common barriers in the creative process is frustration, when ideas don't flow, when progress feels slow, or when results don't match your expectations. Gratitude allows you to shift your focus from what's lacking to what's abundant. Instead of fixating on the challenges, you can appreciate the tools, skills, and inspiration you already possess. For example, if you're struggling with a project, pause to acknowledge the privilege of having the time and resources to create. This perspective doesn't eliminate difficulties, but it makes them feel more manageable. Another way gratitude enhances creativity is by reducing the weight of comparison. In a world where it's easy to measure your work against others, gratitude helps you focus on your unique journey. Seneca advised, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." Instead of envying another person's success, practice gratitude for your own progress and potential. Recognize that your creative path is yours alone, and that every step, no matter how small, is meaningful. Gratitude also fosters resilience in the face of setbacks. When rejection or failure strikes, it's natural to feel disheartened. But the Stoics teach us to reframe adversity as an opportunity for growth. Epictetus said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." In creative terms, this means appreciating the lessons that challenges bring. A failed project might teach you new techniques or reveal an idea you hadn't considered. Gratitude helps you see these moments as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. Practicing gratitude doesn't have to be time-consuming. Start with simple daily reflections. At the end of each creative session, ask yourself, what went well today? What resources or opportunities am I grateful for? What skills have I developed through this process? Writing these reflections in a journal reinforces the habit of gratitude and helps you maintain a positive outlook. Another practice is to express gratitude for your creative process itself. The Stoics believed in honoring what is within your control, and your creative effort is entirely yours. Whether your work is praised, criticized, or ignored, the act of creating is an achievement in itself. Take a moment to thank yourself for showing up, for trying, and for continuing to grow. Gratitude can also be a source of inspiration. By focusing on what you're thankful for, you often uncover ideas and themes to explore in your work. For example, reflecting on meaningful relationships, memorable experiences, or even personal struggles can spark creative expression. These moments of gratitude connect you to your authentic voice, enriching your art with depth and sincerity. Lastly, share your gratitude with others. Whether it's thanking a mentor who guided you, acknowledging a peer who inspired you, or expressing appreciation to an audience who supports your work, gratitude strengthens connections and builds a supportive, creative community. The Stoics valued mutual respect and generosity, believing that gratitude fosters harmony and growth. Ask yourself, am I focusing on what I lack, or am I appreciating what I have? How can gratitude shift my perspective today? The creative process isn't just about producing work, it's about appreciating the journey. By cultivating gratitude, you find joy in the act of creating, resilience in the face of challenges, and inspiration in the everyday. As the Stoics teach, true wealth lies not in what you achieve, but in the gratitude you hold for the opportunities along the way. 10. Achieving creative freedom with a Stoic mindset. True creative freedom isn't about having endless time, resources, or opportunities. It's about liberating your mind from the barriers that hold you back. Fear of judgment, perfectionism, procrastination, and self-doubt can weigh heavily on your ability to create. A Stoic mindset, with its emphasis on self-mastery, detachment from external validation, and focus on the present, provides the tools to break free from these constraints and fully express your creative potential. The Stoics believed that freedom begins in the mind. Epictetus taught freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. For creatives, this means letting go of the outcomes you can't dictate, whether your work will be praised, sold, or even understood, and focusing instead on the effort and intention you bring to the process. When you free yourself from the need for external approval, you unlock the joy of creating for its own sake. One of the greatest barriers to creative freedom is the fear of failure. The Stoics remind us that failure isn't something to be feared, but embraced. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." By reframing failure as a necessary part of growth, you allow yourself the freedom to experiment, take risks, and explore without the weight of perfectionism. Each misstep becomes a lesson, bringing you closer to mastery. Another key to creative freedom is detaching from comparisons. In today's hyper-connected world, it's easy to measure your work against others and feel inadequate. The Stoics advise focusing on your own path. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Instead of looking outward, look inward. What unique perspective do you bring? What drives your creative vision? By grounding yourself in your values, you free yourself from the pressure to conform or compete. Time is another constraint that often stifles creativity. We tell ourselves, "I'll create when I have more time," only to find that the perfect moment never comes. The Stoics remind us that time is fleeting and should be used wisely. Marcus Aurelius urged, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." For creatives, this translates to prioritizing your craft, even in small, consistent increments. Instead of waiting for ideal conditions, use the time you have now to create, no matter how limited it may seem. Procrastination is another common hurdle to creative freedom. The Stoics emphasized action as a remedy for stagnation. Epictetus advised, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Start with small, achievable tasks that build momentum. Whether it's sketching an idea, drafting a paragraph, or experimenting with a melody, taking action, however imperfect, frees you from the paralysis of overthinking. Stoic principles also teach the importance of presence. Creativity thrives when you're fully engaged in the moment, unburdened by worries about the past or future. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." When you focus entirely on the task at hand, you enter a state of flow where ideas come naturally and time seems to disappear. Practice mindfulness as you create. Feel the texture of the paintbrush, hear the rhythm of the words, or sense the movement of your hands on an instrument. Presence transforms the act of creating into an experience of freedom and joy. Lastly, true creative freedom comes from embracing the process over the product. The Stoics believed in finding fulfillment in the effort itself, regardless of the outcome. Marcus Aurelius observed, "The fruit of this life is a good character and acts for the common good." For creatives, the fruit of your work isn't just the finished piece. It's the growth, insight, and satisfaction you gain along the way by focusing on the process. You release yourself from the pressure to achieve a specific result and rediscover the pure pleasure of creating. Ask yourself, what mental barriers are limiting my creativity? How can I use Stoic principles to free myself from these constraints? Creative freedom isn't about eliminating challenges. It's about mastering your response to them. With a Stoic mindset, you can let go of fear. Embrace imperfection and create with confidence and authenticity. This is the path to unlocking your true creative genius. Creativity is one of the most profound expressions of the human spirit, but it often feels like a battle against doubt, fear, and external pressures. What we've uncovered today through the lens of Stoicism is that the real battle isn't with the outside world, it's within us. By adopting a Stoic mindset, we can overcome these internal barriers, embrace challenges, and unlock our full creative potential. Whether it's learning to let go of what you can't control, finding inspiration in moments of discomfort, or shifting your focus from perfection to progress, Stoic principles provide timeless tools for navigating the creative journey. Creativity isn't about achieving flawless results. It's about growth, resilience, and the courage to share your unique perspective with the world. As we wrap up, remember this: creativity thrives not in a state of ease, but in the willingness to explore, experiment, and endure. The Stoics remind us that every obstacle is an opportunity, and every challenge a chance to refine our craft and character. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery and creative empowerment. If this episode resonated with you, don't forget to share it with someone who might need a spark of inspiration. Together, let's continue to create, grow, and make a difference. Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and remember, the true genius lies not in the final masterpiece, but in the journey of becoming.